start from what came before. One of the things that happened before is after Shlomo Melech becomes king, he falls asleep and has a dream. And Hashem asks him, what's the thing you wish for the most? Tell me what you really want in life. So Shlomo said he wanted wisdom more than anything else. Hashem said, you want wealth, you want children, you want this, that. He said, I want wisdom. So in the dream, Hashem is very happy with his request. He says, because you asked me for wisdom, I'm going to give you everything else. I'm going to give you also wealth, also give you everything you want, together with the wisdom, because wisdom brings out everything. And because you asked for that purely, without ulterior motives, then I'm going to give you everything else as well. So that's what happens in the dream. And then he wakes up from the dream, and he's going out, he's hearing the birds are singing, and he understands what it says in the Midrashim, he understands what they're saying. He understands the language of birds. Yeah, you with me? And he hears the different creatures, hears the trees, rustling, he understands the language of the trees, and he starts understanding everything, the secrets of the universe. After that dream, Hashem gave him wisdom, like unusual, supernatural wisdom. And then after that, it describes in the Psukim before, it describes that he went and made a big suda, a big meal, a festive meal. He invited like many, many people to the meal, a really big meal. So the Medrash says, from here we learn out that you make a siyum for Torah. When a person finishes a Masechta, when a person finishes Seder of Mishnah, the person finishes Nevi'im, etc. So you make a siyum. And the source for that custom, that mitzvah of making a siyum, it comes from that story of Shlomo Melech. That when he got all that wisdom, he made a suda. So that's what we do. When we get wisdom, we finish a Masechta, when we finish a Sefer, so we get together, we bring people together, we eat together, we celebrate it. It's one of the most important things in success as a Jew is to celebrate our mitzvahs. If we celebrate our mitzvahs, so then we disable the counterforce, because we're happy about the mitzvahs. They don't have what to say to that. You're happy about your mitzvahs, that's amazing. People naturally do is they do something, they work hard, they finish it, and they right away look for the next thing to do, and they forget what they did. So you have to stop and celebrate. So we learned that from here. Okay, now let's start the new stuff. Now, this portion here, it started from before. This portion is about the inner dimensions of the Beis HaMikdash, which Shlomo Melech built. Okay.
I'm trying to find the video, but it's not showing up here. So.
Well, it's on here anyway. Oh, it's not here?
It's I don't know. It's not broadcasting live. Anyway.
It's not?
This is from our listeners' shoe.
It's not set up to broadcast?
You don't see. Should I try and restart and see if it pops up?
The last one also didn't go up. I didn't see it go up.
Here we go.
Okay, it's on?
Yeah.
Okay, so that first part didn't go. Okay, we'll start from here.
Oh, that's good. It's good.
Okay, good. Okay, so now we're starting at Pasuk Yud Gimel, Perek Vav, Pasuk Yud Gimel of Melachim. It's describing now. The Torah is going to describe the dimensions of the Beis HaMikdash, the Heichel, the Kodesh, and the Kodesh Kodashim, how they were set up from within, the inner dimensions, and then it describes afterwards Shlomo Melech's house, which was next to it, the Bayit of Shlomo Melech, the royal house. Okay, V'yeven et the kibbutz. It's actually Yudalit. V'yeven Shlomo et Habayit v'chalehu, and Shlomo built the house and he completed it, which I think it means he put on the cedar boards on top of the stone, and then on top of that he's going to put gold. So I think complete over here means overlaid. I'm not sure. V'yeven et kirot habayit mibayita bitzalot arazim. So he built the walls of the house with planks of cedar. Mikarka habayit ad kirot hatzifun, from the floor until the top of the walls. Sipa eitz mibayit vitzafe et karka bayit bitzalot broshim. So he covered the whole thing with from within with cedar, and he covered the floors with cypress. Yeven et esrim ama berchetei bayit bitzalot arazim in a karka ad kirot vivendo mibayit ledivir lekodesh kodashim. So he built esrim ama. It was 20 amot inside, surrounded with these cedar boards, and that was Eviyevlon mebeit ledevir by the kodesh kodashim. So that the 20 was the 20 inner ones where the kodesh kodashim was going to be. So there were 20 on the inside. And then there were 40 in the outer sanctuary there. So all of the Heichel, the Beis HaMikdash, was 60 amot. So 40 of it was the Kodesh, and then 20 inside was the Kodesh Kodashim. That's what it's describing here. And he put it all. There's always was made from stone, but then he put cedar planks all around. And then he's going to put gold on top of that, because you can't put gold on top of the stone. You had to put it onto the wood. It won't stay on the stone.
Like in the Mishkan.
Yeah. The Mishkan didn't have stone.
No.
So the gold went straight on. But here you had to put the cedar on first and the wood on first, and then you put on the gold. The erez el habayit apenima mikalat pekaim upatori tzitzim hakol erez ein even nira. So the cedar that was in the house, in the inner parts of the house, it was decorated with pikaim knobs, upaturi tzitzim, and blossoming flowers. Hakol erez ein even nira. It was all cedar. There was no stone you could see. It would veer b'toch habayit mipnima hechin letiten sham et Aharon brit Hashem. And the devir, that's the inner part, it's called the Kodesh Kodashim. He prepared that to put there the Aharon of the Brit Hashem, the Aharon where the Luchot were. It's called the Devir perhaps because it means speech. Devir is Afshin Davar, and that's where the Luchot, the Ten Commandments were, that Hashem spoke. Right. Lefnei Devir Estrim Amma, Orach ve'Estrim Amma Rocha ve'Estrim Amma Komato, Tzapeo Zahav Segor, Yitzef Mizbeach Ares. So it was 20 by 20. It was 20 deep and 20 wide. The whole Beis HaMikdash was 20 wide, including the Kodesh Kodashim. The 20 Kodashim was also 20 long. So it's 20 by 20.
20 high.
Now it says 20 high. That's a little bit of a problem, because the Gemara says it was 30. And the rest of the Beis HaMikdash was 30. The Gemara says that it was 20 above the Kruvim, above the angels. Here it says it was 20. So unfortunately, talk about how to reconcile that. And the Malbim says that it was 20 with the erez, with the wood planks and the gold on top of it, but above that there was more. There was another 10. But it was 20 of gold. There was another. That's how the Malbim explains it. Okay. Because the Gemara knew this. The Gemara knew this psukim much better than we did, and yet it says that it was 30, even though it says right here the fair is 20, so it needs to be reconciled. Yeah. V'yitzav Shlomo et habayit mipnima zahav segor v'yabed v'artikot zahav lefnei devir v'tzipei zahav. So again, he coated it with gold, and he had these chains of gold around it before the Kodesh Kodashim b'devir, and he coated everything with gold. V'et kol habayit tzipa zahav ad tom kol habayit. The whole bayit he coated with zahav until completed kol habayit v'kol mizbeach shedevir tzipa zahav. And also the mizbeach that was in front of the devir, he coated that with gold. What's that? What's mizbeach? Is that? You guys know? What? Ketoret. Very good. Yes, mizbeach and ketoret. That's the answer. Okay, now let me just one thing I want to tell you here. So I listened to Rav Kashiel. He's talking. He describes what's going on here, the deeper stuff. He gets I think a lot of it from Ramad Valreb David Moshe Vadi, who was the Talmud of the Ramchal. He's bringing from him, at least partly. He brings from where he brings. So he says a few interesting deep things here. One deep thing is that so the Kodesh Kodashim was 20 amot, and the Kodesh was 40. So it's 2/3. The whole altogether, it's 60. 2/3 is the bigger space, and 1/3 is the smaller space. So that corresponds to the Sfirot, he says, because the top sphere that's number 10. That's the highest emanation, right? And we have no concept of that. That's so high that we can't visualize that or can't symbolize that. But then there's 9 more. So the first 3 are the ones of dat, of intellect, right? Chokmah Bina. And so Chachmina V'dat, and that's represented by the 20 amos of the Kodesh Kodashim. That's where the essence of wisdom is. And then after that, it's the other midot. Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. So that's the other 6. Okay. V'yitzaf Shlomo. There's more Ramazim here. Very interesting Ramazim. I mean, it's all Ramazim. This all is all symbolic in the deepest ways. The Mishkan. I mean, the Mikdash. So we can't talk about. I can't talk about it so much. But I'll just tell you a couple of things I heard from Rav Kashiel just now. V'yitzaf Shlomo et habayit mipenima. Sav Sigur, V'yabed, V'tikot Zahav, L'fnei Advir, V'spei Zahav. You said that. V'tkol habayit, Tzipa Zahav, Ad Tom Kol habayit, Kol Mezbech, Asher Advir, Tzipa Zahav. Yeah, Kaf Gimel we're up to. V'yasbedir Shnei Kruvim, Atse Shamen, Ezer Amot Komato. And he made in the Devir, in the Kodesh Kodashim, 2 Kruvim, right, the 2 angels. Atse Shamen, they're made of olive wood. Eser amot komato, balsam wood, olive wood. So they were each one of them was 10 amot high. So they were also 1/3 of the place here because it was 30 amos high, and these standing angels were 10 amos high, 10 amos. And under them was the ark, was the Aharon. There was also little angels on that, and Shlomo made 2 big angels also. He made more angels in there than were in the original Mishkan.
Now I have a question about this.
Yeah.
Like a statue. I don't understand why we have
Right, it's a good question. So you're not allowed to build statues like that, except it says in the Torah to do them. So that's why we do them, and this is the exception. Inside the Beis Hamikdash, so they have statues with a person's face. One was masculine, one was feminine, and it's straight in the pasuk that we're supposed to do. So by ourselves, we don't do it. We don't make statues of people. We don't put them in our holy places, but here we do. And I don't know, I can't explain it so much. It's deep stuff. So I think that when you're in such a holy place, you don't get mixed up. You know that's, you don't.
I think in the pasuk it says, you shall not make images of any animal on the earth, any fish under the earth, or any bird.
Or the sun and the moon, or people. People's problem also. But if they're full images.
But Melachim, they're not of this world, so.
Okay, maybe. Okay, that's true. They had human faces, but okay, it's interesting. Okay, I don't know. Okay, it's a good question. But I can't answer it right now. It's not right here. Okay, so v'chamish amot kanaf akruv achad, chamish amot kanaf akruv ha'shenid, Esther amot miktzot kanafav v'atkos kanafav. So how big were the kruvim? Each of their wings was 5 amot, and there were 2 of them. And they were spread out like this. So basically, the wingspan of each one was 10 amot, and that filled the sanctuary there, which was 20 amot. Ezra ba'amot kruv ha'shenid, mida achad v'ketzav achad l'shnei kruv. They're both the same size. Komen kruv achad. Ezra b'ama v'kena kruv ha'sheni. They were both 10 amot. V'tena kruvim b'toch habayid hapanimi v'yipursu at kanfei hakruvim gigal kanaf echad v'kir kanaf echad kanaf kruv ha'sheni nogat v'kir ha'sheni v'kanfeim el toch habayid nogot kanaf el kanaf. Okay, so their wings were touching each other and they were touching the walls. Yitzaf has kruvim zahav. They were coated with gold. V'kirot habayid Meisav kala pituche miklaot kruvim v'timrot v'turi tzitzim lefnim l'kitzon. Now in the walls of the bayit, that means the outer part, not in the inner part. But going back to the outer part again, they were covered with chains and with pituche miklaot and knobs and kruvim, and there are also pictures of kruvim, pictures of angels on the walls in the outer sanctuary. Also v'timorot. Also, palm trees, uvaturi tzitzim, and blossoming flowers. Milafnim v'chitzon, in and out of the walls of the inner sanctum. Vetkarka bayit tzipa zahav, lipnima v'chitzon, and the floor was zahav, also gold. Vetpetach hadavir asa daltot atzei shamen al mezuzot kamishit, and then it describes the doors over there. They were made of this balsam wood, etc. Ushtei dolotot atze shemen v'kla aleihem miklaot kruvim v'timrot v'turi tzitzim v'tzipa zahav v'yared al kruvim v'al timrot v'et hazahav. Also, the doors were also decorated with all these decorations, with the flowers and the palm trees and the angels and the gold chains. V'kein asar lepetach hahechel mezuzot atzei shemen me'es ruvis. Ushtei doltot atzei brushim ushnei tzlaim hadel achat lilim ushnei kalaim hadel hasheni lilim. And so the doors were beautiful with these knobs and all that kind of stuff, beautiful knobs. V'kala kruvim v'timra p'tur tzitzim tzipa zahav miusha alha mechukah. Also, all the decorations and designs. Yeven et chatzer apnimit shlosha tur gazit v'tur krutot harazim. And they built the chatzer. Now they're talking about the courtyard, the inner courtyard that's one step out from the 40 amma place, the kodesh. So that was 3 levels of stone, shosha tur gazit, 3 levels of hewn stone. Tur krutot arazim, and the top was hewn eris, cedar. Yeah. B'shana Harviat Yusad Beit Hashem B'Yerech Ziv. So in the 4th year of the reign of Shlomo, it was established the house of Hashem B'Yerech Ziv in the month of Ziv, which Ziv means shine, and so that's the month of Nisan. What's that for Nisan? Iyar. Ziv is Iyar. Ubashana Achat Esrei B'Yerech Bul Chodesh Hashmini. And then in 1 year, B'Shana Achat Esrei in the 11th year, B'Yerech Bul Chodesh Hashmini, in the month of Bul. Bul is the 8th month, which is Cheshvan. Kala Bayit L'Kol Dvarav L'Kol Mishpatav Bivneu Sheva Shanim. So they completed the house. That was in the 11th year, starting from the 4 years of the king of reign of Shlomo, and then 7 years to build the house. Completed in 7 years. Okay, so that's basically description of the completion of the Bayit, of the Beis Hamikdash. That's not the whole description. That's of the inner structure over there. Okay, so just a couple more comments about the structure there. Interesting thing is if you are careful, if you observe this psukim carefully, you'll see that in the 40 amot in the Kodesh, the outer sanctuary, it was very decorated. All these beautiful things, palm trees, and flowering flowers, and angels, all that kind of stuff. And in the inner sanctum, there was none of that. It was just very simple and gold. There was a kruvim there. There was the angels over there, and there weren't the designs. So what does it mean? So there's 2 levels of Torah. There's the revealed Torah, which is represented by the outer sanctuary, and it's beautiful and it's interesting and it's full of depth and it's full of imagination and details and beauty, and it's pointing you in towards the inner one. There's even the designs of the kruvim out there to tell you that there's something deeper than this, which is the inner sanctuary, where is the hidden Torah, and that's represented also by the wings of the angels, because you hide under the wings. The wings protect you. That's the place for the hidden Torah. There's unlimited depth of Torah that leads you into deeper and deeper things which are previously hidden and become revealed more and more. Okay, so that's also represented by the inner and outer sanctuary. So that's also very cool. Okay, and now it describes the house of Shlomo Melech, which is also built next to the Beis Hamikdash. Ve'et beito bana Shlomo shlosh esrei shana v'chol et kol beito. So now the house, it took him 13 years to build, and the Gemara praises him because he built the Beis Hamikdash very quickly, not wasting any time, 7 years. And his house, he built regular. He wasn't rushing to build his house, because that wasn't as the main thing. So that took 13 years. So Rav Kashiel says 13 has to do with the 13 attributes of kindness that we talked about, Hashem Karach and V'Chanun, and that was the whole concept of the kingdom of Shlomo Melech, built on kindness, built on midas tovos, built on the midas. Yevenet Beit Yar Halavanon, Mea Ama Arko, V'Chamishim Ama Rakbo, Shloshim Ama Komato, Al Arba Ture Amudi Arazim, V'Krutot Arazim Ala Amudim. So he built this house, the house of Shlomo himself, the royal palace, called it the Yar HaLevanon, the forest of Lebanon. and it was 100. We'll go back to that in a second. What means the forest of Lebanon? It was 100 amot long. So as opposed to 60 of the Beis Hamikdash, it was bigger. It was 100. For Chamishim Amma Rachbo, it was 50 Amma wide, as opposed to 20. Ushloshim Amma Kobato, but it was the same height as the Beis Hamikdash, 30. Okay, it was longer and wider, but the same height. Al Arbaturi Amudi Arazim. Now inside it had four rows of pillars. Krutot Arazim Alumadi. And it has these Arazim on top of them, and it has these, these decorations on top. The Safun Ba'erez Mimal Al Tzalaot Shir Al Mudim Arba'im V'Chamisha Asher Atur. Okay, there were all these rows. It's describing all these rows of cedar. Ushkifim Shlosha Turim Umechazeh El Mechazeh Shlosha Shlosh Pamim. And it said they had these windows, 3 rows of windows that were facing each other, 2 sides. There were big windows, one window above another, rows of big windows, and on both sides facing each other. So there was tons of light coming in, and a view also. Now it seems like this. It says it was the Yar Levanon. So the Beis Hamikdash is also called Levanon, which means white, pure, place where you get pure from sins. So also the place of the house of Shlomo, the palace, was called Levanon. So it had that. There was something else, a purity about this house also apparently. Also, it was in the forest. So one explanation is that it was actually in a forested place. It was in the middle of this beautiful pardesim, orchards and trees and gardens and fountains and streams, and it was like made the most beautiful, courtyards and buildings. It was the most beautiful place, and which is described actually in Kohelet, which Shlomo Melech wrote, describes it. He describes all his wealth and his orchards and his gardens and all the beauty that he was very interested in, and music and all kinds of aesthetic amazingness. So he had that. He had these big windows over there, big light, and it was an incredible place. And the question is, there's a question here, is it's interesting, why isn't it that important to us? Like, okay, he was a big king, he was a very, very wealthy king, an imaginative individual, interested in aesthetics, interested in music, interested in the art, and so he made himself this amazing palace over there. But okay, fine, he could do it if he wants, but why is that important for us? That's a question. Yeah? Okay. V'kol hapsachim b'mezuzot revuim shakef amul mechazeh el mechazeh shalosh pamim. Also had these doors which were facing each other, and they were beautiful. Also, beis ulam ma'udim asa chamishim ama arko shloshim ama rakbo v'ulam al paneim v'amudim va'ad al panehem. Okay, so let me talk about this here now a little bit. So it seems like this is what I heard, that what's going on here is Shlomo Melech's house is not a regular palace. It's not a regular palace for a regular person. This is for the person that's bringing down the divine presence into Am Yisrael. And so what he does is he makes his palace near the Beis Hamikdash. There was actually a walkway that went from the Beis Hamikdash straight into from the house into the Beis Hamikdash. And when the Queen of Sheba came, she was very impressed with that. And it was bigger than the Beis Hamikdash, but it was the same height. So what does that mean? It means that there is the world of spirituality, which is the Beis Hamikdash, and that's the source of everything good, is the spiritual things that are coming down from Hashem. And then, parallel to that, is the house of Shlomo Melech, the palace of Shlomo, which represents bringing the spiritual beauty and truth into our world. So the house was specifically parallel to the Beis Hamikdash, because there's a big Beis Hamikdash of Hashem, and then there's who's the king of the world, there's of the whole universe, and there's the king of the lower world, who's bringing down the kingliness of Hashem into this world. This is a parallel here. So the same height. They were. It's bigger, the one down here, because we have to bring it down into our world. Like, it doesn't have to be so big. Spirituality doesn't take up space, but it has to take up space more in our world. So it's bigger. And also, it's a very interesting thing. I like this very much. I find this fascinating, that he had orchards and gardens and courtyards and all kinds of flowering trees and bushes and singers and musicians. And so he was into beauty and spirituality. He had guests all the time, tons of guests. So you imagine the way Shlomo Melech was living. He was like living in this world of loving Hashem's world and the beauty of the world, and experiencing that, and that being a source of bringing that beauty down into our world, you know. And not and there was Shlomo Melech's time. You didn't have to be ascetic, because there was so much kedusha. We could bring down the spiritual beauty into the world, into our world, and express it in our world. So that's what's happening. You can imagine that he was there in the gardens, in the orchards, talking to the biggest Chachamim, talking the deepest ideas, exchanging them. The musicians are playing, and it's very interesting how the king was living.
Like the scripture portrayed to us, like, say the Mashiach will come.
This is very close. This is almost a Mashiach situation in the time of Shlomo Melech. That's what it's described in Rav Kook describes that we got very this close to Mashiach at that time. It didn't quite make it, and then everything collapsed. But there was the kingdom of heaven in this world. It was happening in times of Shlomo, and so it's been describing a little here in terms of the of the representations that were going on, and the parallel between the Beis Hamikdash and the palace of King Shlomo. And it describes here also the courtyard was also the same. The courtyard had 3 rows of stone and 1 row on top of cedar. That was the same as Beis Hamikdash. So there were all these parallels. And now, Ushkufim Shlosh Turim Mekazeh Mekazeh Shlosh Pamim. I said that. So that's the windows. Sakum Zuzos Revuyim Shakef Umul Mekazeh Mekazeh Shlosh. Those are the doors. That's Ulam Amudim Asa Chamishim Amma Arko. I went back. Ushloshim Amma Rakbo Bu'ulam Alpanehem Amudim Pav Alpanehem. Bu'ulam Akise. Oh, now we're up to Pasuk Zayin. Bu'ulam Hakisei Asher Yishpat Sham Ulam Mishpat Asav Safun Be'eres Yakarka Adakarka. So there was now the chamber for judgment. There was this big throne where Shlomo Melech sat. That's where he did judgments. He was a shofet. People come before him to have judgments. So this is part of the palace. It wasn't like a palace like King Arthur, It was the opposite. And so in this next to the Beis Hamikdash, with all these characters, all these qualities to it, that's where the judgment was going. That's where the Sanhedrin was, apparently. I'm not sure. That's what Kashya said. I don't know. At some point, at least. Maybe in the first Beis Hamikdash, the Sanhedrin was there also. I think so. Ulam Akise Asher Yishpat Sham, Ulam Meshpat Asav Safon, Be'eres Mekarka. So also it was surrounded by cedar wood. Cedar wood is the right environment. Even today, they do that. That's a study, right? Because scholar studies is like with cedar, right? It's beautiful. Ubeito Asher Yeshev Sham Chatzer Acheret, the base the Ulam, K'maisa Zeh Haya Ubayis Yaseh Lebas Paro Asher Lakach Shlomo Ka'ulam Hazeh. There was also a house for Bat Paro, who was one of the first wives that took over there. That represented by the fact that he married Bas Paro represents that he was branching out to the whole world, like connecting with all the kingdoms of the world. She was Megar, she was a Ger Tzedek, and so that's that. Kol elavanim yikarot, tamidot gazid megorot, b'magera mibayit mechutz, u'mimasad ad tafok mechutz ad chatzer agdol. So it's interesting. It says all the stones and all the wood were carefully chiseled and carved, unlike the ones in the Beis Hamikdash. You weren't supposed to bring metal on the ones in the Beis Hamikdash. They didn't use metal for it because it's all about shalom. But for the king, you do use metal because it's about shalom. It's also about mishpat. It's about this worldly. This as well. The stones were 10 amot and 8 amot, which equals 18. He says that's the spine of the person has 18 vertebrae. Yeah. So it's like the straightness of the king. So there it is. It's just like the Beis Hamikdash. Arazim, Chatzer Beis Hashem, Panimis Lulam Vayis. Yishlach HaMelech Shlomo Yikach Et Kiram Mitzor. Okay. I'm going to stop here. Then it describes how he got this master carpenter to come and help him build the rest of the parts of what he had to build over there. Okay, it describes more the Bayit. Okay, let's stop here.